Hello and welcome to a new video in which I want to talk with you about the difference of speaking on podcasts and being on social media. So what should you focus on in 2026 and beyond? If we haven't met before, my name is Simone Sauter. I'm a PR and AIO strategist. I help established business owners build the authority, credibility, and visibility that their clients can actually verify in the AI era. And I do this by getting them onto top tier media. I get them onto the best podcast shows out there, and I help them to get recognized by AI so that they are cited and recommended. I've been featured on more than 40 publications, spoken on more than 90 podcasts, and I also own a Google Knowledge panel. Today, we talk about the difference of speaking on podcasts and posting on social media, and which you actually should focus on in 2026 and beyond, and why. Okay, so the first question that we need to talk about is when someone asks AI about your topic, about what you're an expert for, right? Is your name showing up? And basically, if the answer is no, then you need to rethink your strategy. Okay, so there are two ways how you can spend your time, right? So we all have just limited time, especially if you are, for example, a mom like I am, then we can't do everything, even if we wanted to, right? So we need to think very clearly about the strategy that we put behind our marketing. So, and there are, basically very simplified two ways how you can spend your time with getting visible, right? And this is either you rely on social media or you focus on strategies that actually build trust and that work for you in the long term. Okay, there are more things that you can do, but today I want to speak about podcasts. Speaking on podcasts is one of these strategies. So why is this important? So the newest studies show that 94% of B2B buyers actually research experts with AI before they're even making contact. That means they're asking AI for an expert in your niche, for example. Then they get names and then they have an entire conversation, right? And by the time they are making contact with you, like booking a call, writing an email, or whatever, they already know a lot about you and they most likely have already made up their mind they want to work with you, right? And it's the same that with B2C. So there it is more than half of the people, right? So if you're, for example, a dating coach, then more than 50% of your potential clients are actually asking AI for a dating expert and having these conversations with AI before reaching out. So what does that mean? That means if AI does not know you, if AI does not find you, cannot read you, your expertise, your website, your digital footprint, basically, you are invisible to like a lot of potential buyers. Okay. So from 2026 and beyond, it is a very, very wise strategy to invest in your AI visibility. And also, the opportunity right now is really big because only 11% of brands are actually findable by AI at the moment, which means 89%, most likely you as well, are not readable and findable by AI. And that is a massive opportunity. Okay. So as I said, your time is limited. So you really need to make a decision what you want to spend your time on, right? And the key takeaway here is that visibility in the AI era is not about being seen. It's about being remembered and being recommended by AI. So the second point is that great content no longer proves that you're credible, right? So before we had AI, we all needed to create content from our head with our fingers. We all had to write it all down. And people knew that if we shared content about topics XYZ, that we knew about it, right? But now people know that we have AI and everybody can just create and produce polished, expert sounding content in a couple of minutes. You just say like, hey, I want to create a post around XYZ and AI writes it for you, right? And if you then train AI properly, then you can pretend to be an expert in a niche that you have actually no idea, really what you're talking about. And people know that. And also when everybody sounds like an expert and everybody sounds trustworthy, people don't trust anymore. And you probably see this on your own, right? I mean, there is also a big social media fatigue going on because everything is so crowded with AI content, but people don't trust anymore, okay? And you have heard me say this before. If we met before, we are in a trust recession, and building trust with your audience is one of the most important things if you want to build a future-proof personal brand. Real trust has to come from something that you cannot fake with AI. Okay. And these are all kinds of third party endorsements, podcasts, media, summits, whatever it is. Today we speak about podcasts. Okay. Because when you speak on podcasts, you borrow the trust of the host because the host says you're an expert. Okay. And you also borrow the reputation of the podcast show. And a third part, if a third party vouches for you and says you're an expert, this is way more valuable than actually you posting on social media. Hey, look at me, how great I am. This is what I achieved, and this is what I can do. Because we can, again, create anything that we want. Okay, so the key takeaway here is in a trust recession, proof beats polish. Okay, we need to prove that we are an expert if we want people to hire us. And especially if we sell high tickets, especially if we build a personal brand, right? So you need credibility that you did not create yourself, right? And you cannot actually create credibility yourself, because then, if you say about yourself that you're amazing, this is actually advertising and it's not really credible. The third thing that you hear me talk about all the time is social media as rented land. Okay. If you build on social media, and we have seen this over and over, they change the algorithm and then we have to start from scratch, right? So I remember when I started my first business in 2014 on Facebook, everybody could see anything that I posted. That was amazing. And then through the years, you could see, organic reach plummeted, and now it's all pay to play. And it goes for all social media platforms. Now, my main social media platform is LinkedIn. I have 12,000 followers there. And by now, my posts are seen by between 70 to 300 people from 12,000. Used to be 3,000, 4,000. Like I used to reach a third or a quarter of my entire audience, and now it's like 10 1% or 2% of it, and that is it. And it's the same for Facebook, it's the same for Instagram. It doesn't really matter which social media platform. Also, with social media, your posts are temporary, right? So they just disappear within 24 hours, right? Because there is so much new content coming in, and people are also, I feel this with myself, and you probably feel this for yourself as well. We are tired of social media because everything also sounds the same, and then you can just go on scrolling, and you're just not having the attention anymore to follow everything, to read everything, right? So you spend a lot of time creating content, and you most likely also create amazing content, right? But it's just not visible in social media anymore. And also, the content that is within social media is also not interesting for AI. That means AI does not really read that content. And why? Because it's not third party, right? It's anything that you say about yourself is not interesting to AI. So what I want to say is that social media platforms that are interesting and relevant for AI are LinkedIn and YouTube. And why? Because LinkedIn and YouTube are huge platforms. They have a big reputation. They have a very strong domain authority. And if you create content there, which is long form content, you create long form content that AI can actually cite. Okay. But if you're just posting on LinkedIn, right? You're not publishing articles there, but you're just writing posts. This is not interesting to AI. The same goes for Facebook. The same goes for Instagram. The same goes for TikTok. It is just not interesting, which is why you're basically trying to build a social media following, trying to be visible, but not even the people who are in your following actually see you. Okay. So bottom line, you spend a lot of time for very little visibility. Now, the takeaway here is that social media keeps you busy, and it does not build the trust that you get to keep. Okay. Now, podcasts are one thing that AI cannot fake. I said, like, there are more strategies, but podcast is one of them that they cannot fake. And why? because you cannot send your AI avatar to a podcast interview and have a conversation, right? So you need to show up as a human. And if you have conversations, real life conversations with another human being about your niche, about your expertise, this is when people trust you. People trust you because you are in their ear for 30 to 60 minutes, but also AI trusts you because you have a real life conversation and you are endorsed by a third party, right? So you speak on someone else's podcast, you show up there, you get the backlink, and the host will mention your name and will link out to all your channels, and then you talk about the same topics over and over. This is how AI can actually see, oh, okay, you are an expert on XYZ because you talk about the same things all the time and you're always endorsed by a third party. And at the same time, you create long form natural content that is citable by AI. And if that is then also posted on YouTube, as I just mentioned, YouTube is a great platform to publish content, to create AI citable content. But then you have the high domain authority of YouTube, you have the third party endorsement of the platform, you have the long form natural content, and you just build the trust because you have to show up as a human and talk about what you know. And that basically is the biggest difference, because you can write all the content with AI that you want. You could even create an AI avatar that looks exactly like you and speaks the content. This is how far we are now, and it's only getting better from here. But by now, you can have an AI avatar looking exactly like you, speaking spotless, like without saying or pause or whatever, and saying exactly what you tell it to say. But you can't do this on a podcast show, right? You have to show up. This is why speaking on podcasts is so beneficial. It is my number one strategy. It's the number one strategy that I recommend to every personal brand out there, besides having content on the website and being in the media, which is basically my visibility triangle, right? But if you want to grow quickly, if you want to build your personal brand quickly, if you want to become AI visible quickly, start with podcasts. And while you reach out to podcasts, get your website fixed, get your website ready. Use the content that you create with podcast interviews to actually post it on the website. And then once you have the website and the podcast ready, then go and pitch the media. Okay, so you have probably seen this visibility triangle before. So the website is basically the foundation, which is, having it AI readable. You need your schema markups on there, and you need to have a couple of pages that are important for AI, and you need to have content on the website. Then you speak on podcasts, which creates everything that I just created, and then you go to the media, which is the highest trust level that you can get. So basically, what's the verdict out of this video? If you need to choose between posting on social media and speaking on podcasts, then speaking on podcasts is way more beneficial for you, because social media disappears within 24 hours. Podcasts are visible for years, right? So podcast shows, they are indexed, they are citable, they are findable. And also when people discover a podcast, what often happens is they go to the search bar and they search for specific topics. Okay, so speaking on podcasts helps you to be visible to AI, but also to be trusted by AI and to be trusted by humans. So the key takeaway is the fastest way to become someone AI recommends is to become someone real people put on their show. Okay, it's one element, but it's a very, very big element. Okay, I hope that helps. Bye for now.